All right, of course, welcome back. Yesterday we waited and now we have 16 members nominated to the cabinet. We're still waiting for the 2, but the process has to go on in terms of the vetting. But then it's important for us to understand what really happened or what is happening at this particular moment and the way forward. And especially knowing that this time round we have been given an opportunity to take part in the vetting process. The public will have 7 days to vet, give their comments and their concerns, 7 days in regards to the nominees to the cabinet. Today we are joined by Ken Akide. Ken Akide, of course, is a former chairman of the Law Society of Kenya. He's an advocate of the High Court. He also works as a commissioner with the Energy Regulatory Commission. He's also a member of the East Africa Law Society of Kenya and the International Commission of Jurists. Thank you so much indeed, Ken Akide. Many thanks for joining us here on the Power Breakfast Show. Of course, we know you solely as the former chairman. What exactly are you doing at the moment, and how different is it from your former role as chairman of LSK?
Thank you very much. I am a practitioner. So 95% of my time is spent providing legal services as a practitioner within the context of Kenya. And of course, being a public servant, or having been a public servant, we do continue to offer our services from time to time when called upon to serve on commissions, on boards, and any other positions of public service. So I still do that, but primarily I do practice law in Nairobi.
All right. Yeah. Many thanks. Of course, we will get to other issues later on, but the big issue right now is about the nominees to the cabinet. And perhaps let's start from the very beginning. There was a concern about the long delay to name the nominees. What is your take on that?
I think I do really agree that this country needs to take off. We need to get started. And the long delay, particularly in naming members of cabinet, doesn't augur very well. However, as we speak, I think the job is being done, and I do hope that the rest of the processes required will be speeded up in the interests of Kenya and in the interests of getting us moving forward.
Do you think the delay is consequential in any way in terms of taking this country to the next level of development?
In a sense, yes, because every day, every hour, every minute we lose, it's a loss to Kenya. And I do hope then that the principals will conclude whatever they are doing, and Parliament will then take up its role.
Of course, we are still waiting for 2 more nominees. Is that going to be some sort of a problem?
Well, I am aware that Parliament has insisted that we want to see all the 18 names. We have 16. I think really the job, they need to start working, because 2 out of 18 is a fairly good progress, and Parliament then needs to start vetting, because after all, it won't vet all of them on the same day. So it can start with the 16 that we have as it awaits the other 2.
Mm-hmm. Of course, another concern has been the inclusion of Charity Ngilu and Najib Balala. And this basically goes back to the statement that Deputy President made, that the only politicians who will be part of cabinet will just be the President and himself. What is your view on that?
A bit of a setback, really, because I thought personally as a Kenyan that we are moving into an era where we would trust a politician. 24 hours after the fact, something different turns up. However, I'm comforted, at least for now, by the President's statement that the 2 have undertaken not to play any political roles during the 5 years and have also undertaken to resign from any political positions. I do hope really that word will be kept.
Well, that notwithstanding, the people were concerned. In fact, in some of the dailies, you basically see the fact that it was purely double speak. You tell us no politicians, and then later on you come and say, you know what, these two, yes, they have been politicians, but from now on they won't be politicians. What do you say about that?
I really, I can't agree with you more because I think in Kenya, politician largely is like a leopard. That can the leopard change its color, its skin? Answer is no. So we are yet to see how in actual fact whether these two individuals will really discard politics in the course of their duties.
So, because in fact there's a comment here. Somebody says, how can we trust the president when they can't even support their words? Now what can Kenyan people believe from them? Is that going to be a problem?
It's a big test, I think, and I think it's a challenge to the principles that Kenyans are watching every bit of their word, every bit of their step, and such contradictions are definitely going to be a source of loss of confidence moving forward. And I think perhaps if it's a mistake, then it's a mistake that should not be repeated in future.
All right. Of course, another concern has been, yes, we have technocrats as part of the nominees to the cabinet, the health docket, different views in relation to the the nomination of James Macharia to the health docket. What is your take on that?
I come from a school of thought that believes you do not have to be a doctor to run a ministry, and basically, and I think going through the papers this early this morning, I think we're looking at people who can manage, people who can mobilize resources. And for the Minister of Health, I think one of the biggest concerns is attracting people to invest in the sector. And I think a banker is just the right person, an investment banker, somebody who can mobilize, who knows about mobilizing resources. So I think, reading through the papers again, I think a certain section of medics are actually disagreed with the Doctors Association. So there are mixed reactions. But I think at the bottom line, really, not just for the health sector, but for any other ministry, what we are looking for and what we have been lacking are managers, people who can manage institutions. And I think for that, you do not have to be a doctor to run the Ministry of Health. Furthermore, I think is I think what people need not lose sight of is that Cabinet Secretary actually works on a day-to-day basis with experts who already exist, and those may actually be doctors and other professionals in that particular docket. So it's not a one-man show. The advice, the technical backup is existing in terms of professionals and technocrats within those ministries.
I mean, one concern that really came out was the fact that you need a manager, yes, but you need also one who understands the concerns of doctors, has a bit of experience of what happens on the ground, so that when it comes to even representation and managing, they are in the very things, they are in touch with the ground. What would you say?
It's a valid concern, I must agree, and that can't be brushed aside. And I think it's going to be a challenge for this particular individual to try and consult widely with people within the ministry and professionals who understand the details that he may not be clear on. But moving forward, I think 80-90% of the job is management the resources within the ministry and and mobilizing investment, and I think that doesn't need a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Just, of course, remember you can actually send in your questions, any concerns you have, and of course Ken Akide here will respond to them. There's a concern here from Joe Odundo from Lakisama. He says, I feel that the inclusion of both Bwana Balala and Gilu in the cabinet is a slap in the face. Don't we have young and qualified Kenyans?
I think I agree with Odundo. And I think, like I said earlier, I think Kenyans were looking forward to seeing new faces, a fresh breath of life. And as they say, the inclusion of two politicians, in this case, Honorable Balala and Honorable Ngilu, I think it's a bit of a dent to what was otherwise an extremely excellent choice of individuals to head our cabinet.
Mm. There's another concern here from Ogeto of Asumbi. Says, explain the implications of changing the names of ministries. Right now we're talking about cabinet secretaries from government to government. Can such a situation be scaled down to zero or halted constitutionally?
Just come again, please.
It's more of the change from, ministry to now cabinet secretary. Does it have any constitutional implications?
I think, or the message, I think a little bit. We of course, in the new constitution, these are going to be cabinet secretaries, not ministers. But for all intents and purposes, they play the role the minister is to play. The only difference, and if I understand that question correctly, is that this time the cabinet secretary will not be sitting in parliament like the previous ministers. And that has advantages, in my view, in that we'll now have people whose work is totally different from the politics inside parliament. And that's a division, that a dichotomy that is created in the new constitution, and I think that is positive.
Mm-hmm. But they'll still be in consultation with the committees of Parliament.
Absolutely right. That's the point of contact. They'll be working hand in hand with the committees of Parliament, although they will be outside of Parliament. They will not be members of Parliament.
Mm-hmm. Of course, another nominee here, who hit the headlines, is of course the first woman and the first woman chairperson of the Law Society of Kenya, Rachel Omamo's nomination to the defense docket. Well, people, the mentality that, you need to have a very strong man in that docket. What did you take on that?
First and foremost, I think I want to congratulate Rachel Omamo, senior counsel. And I think she was first woman to be chair of the Law Society of Kenya, and here is another first. I think, speaking about somebody I know very well, I think she has the capabilities. And again, like I said earlier, what we require right now is people who can manage, and who can coordinate, and who can, oversee policy within these dockets. And they can be man or woman. And in this case, I think the woman that has been chosen is the right person, has the experience, has the abilities and the intellect to run that powerful docket, as it's been called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the place of women, especially looking at even the representation so far, a great deal of encouragement. Is this going to change the work of government?
I think Kenya is